We are Ben and MP, and we've been having a blast rebuilding this wrecked schooner. Today we're finally ready to start fiberglassing our roof. But, spoiler alert, not everything went as planned. Good morning! I promised I would show today how shiny and beautiful it was, but we ended up getting carried away by sanding the epoxy so we can apply the second layer. So I'll show you how shiny and beautiful it is after the second layer. For now, this is what we've got.
After the first layer of epoxy, we have sanded a bit down, so the bits that were too thick. And we've also realized, of course, some bits were not done as good, which I think is normal for epoxy. So we're just going over it again with a thin layer on where it's needed and a slightly thicker layer on where it's needed even more. Just so that before we start fiberglassing, everything is covered with a nice layer of epoxy. There's no holes, no nothing. Also, it's going to create some waterproofness in case it rains in the meantime. Today is a windy, sunny day that we're applying epoxy. Nico and myself are actually going over with a cloth which has no dust, making sure it's all dry, and then David's going over with the epoxy and the like a sponge roller to make sure it's really smooth. I found myself squinting with the polarized sunglasses on my head, and I put them on, and the polarized sunglasses almost like take the reflection off the epoxy, and you can literally see where you've been and where you haven't been. And so I gave them to him, and we're starting all over again because we missed a lot. No, I'm kidding. So it's all good, but you can see way better with polarized sunglasses when you're putting on epoxy, so give it a go.
So here it is, as promised, our roof completely shiny, full of epoxy, protected from the rain. Now the next step still is to add the fiberglass, and then more epoxy, and then more epoxy, and then more epoxy resin. But for now, this is what we have, and we are in love with it. So what's going on right now? We are removing the top, just half the top, so we can have more sun here drying this area, because we are about to install the fiber. So we need this to be completely dry. Today is sunny, so we're going to enjoy those sun rays, make this completely dry, add the fiber. But we don't want to remove the top completely because our neighbors are sending loads of stuff, and we want to protect the roof somehow. But the coolest thing about this moment is that it's the first time I'm actually looking at the roof, how it's looking under the sun, because before it was always under the top, and now it's finally looking under the sun, and it's so shiny and it's so beautiful, and I don't regret this at all. I love it.
We've managed to find a couple non-rainy days to just apply these first layers of epoxy. Now this is probably the last nice day before 10 days of rain, so we want to get the fiberglass on top. So the next steps are, this has been sanded yesterday. We have finished epoxying the sides here because that had to have a little more sanding done, and then another layer of epoxy. This is all dried due to the high temperatures, which is nice. David is just giving it a little layer of sanding just to get the little dust particles off that fell on top of it. After this, we're going to clean the whole top with compressor, vacuum, a cloth with some alcohol, ethanol, to get all the dust and oils off, and then we can already start laying down the fiberglass rolls to then see where all the mends are going to be, tape it all down, and then epoxy it to the top of the roof, which is going to be super cool. Then the next steps are all this, and it's going to look amazing soon.
Surface, we're still doing some final touches of epoxy, and the sun just dries it out so much quicker. We can put out the fiberglass tecido, the carpets, whatever, down like this, but when we're going to work with the epoxy, we're going to put the top back on so the epoxy doesn't catalyze too fast.
So what we're going to do now is called a dry test.
Dry test. So we're going to like make sure the edges of the fiberglass are fitting, cut the corners where it's needed, tape it all in place, have something quickly to eat, oh, finally, have something quickly to eat, and then epoxy it. So, I've never done this before, David has, but also not on such a big surface, so it's still going to look good. Take our time.
The tarp's going back up, and that's because we removed the tarp before because we needed to add some epoxy in some spots that were missing it, and the sun dries the epoxy faster, so if we wanted to go faster, we wanted the sun to be really shining onto directly. But now we're gonna start adding the fiber and the epoxy, and we don't want to have to rush for that, we want more time. So the tarp's going back up so we can have some shade. And also the good thing of not having the top up is that we could do some drone shots for you. But now the drone's over. Let's just go with this.
Quisiera salir. fechou já com 1 metro?
Sim.
I never really worked with fiber before, so I'm quite skeptical about this white carpet becoming transparent when we add the epoxy. I cannot wait to see if that will work.
So putting on epoxy on fiberglass is a very sensitive work to humidity. Was that thunder? We were so close to getting this done today, and it was supposed to rain around midnight, so it would have given us plenty of time to work with low humidity and let it dry before that time. But it's now afternoon, 3-4 p.m, and we're hearing thunder and seeing lightning, and the humidity is going up a lot, so we're not going to risk it. We're going to keep it all in one piece. We're just going to take the tape off the sides, fold it up nicely, and unfold it again on a nice dry day, because we don't want to risk losing all of this and the epoxy. So very, very unfortunate, but it's the best thing we can do now. So I don't know, over there you'll be able to see, maybe there's loads of big black clouds coming, and we just can't do this today. Funny how the whole roof's worth of fiberglass is just rolled into this tiny bit. So hopefully on a nice dry day, this is all ready, that's all ready. Unfortunately, so unfortunate, so annoyed we had to take it off, but on a nice day we'll unroll it all how it was before. Of course we're going to have to fix up some of the mends, but then we can go over it a lot quicker because everything's already prepared. I think this is just part of what fiberglassing and epoxying is, but someone else doesn't agree. Enough now, I'll stop filming.
I'm so angry. So frustrated.
But look, sooner or later this is going to reach us. We had this all day and it was supposed to last a lot longer. So I'm going to put this somewhere safe because it started raining already, so I'll be quick. We are now a few days later, 3-4 days later, and it's still raining. So we cannot work on the fiberglass. We're just gonna have to wait. At least it's not too sunny, so the epoxy is not gonna go bad. So all we can work on now is the interior. We've gone through one pot. I can't even talk anymore. We've gone through one pot already, or one set. This is the second one. Nico's probably done all his side already because he's just really good at this. I'm about 3/4 through, so he's gonna lap me and he's gonna start coming back. But yeah, we're almost done, and hopefully by tomorrow this will be nice and dry so we can start sanding and then maybe touch up if we need to where it's kind of needed, and then hopefully we can paint already so we can start working on the interior, as in we want to sand the roof so we can paint the floor. Does that make sense? We don't want to paint the floor and then sand the roof. So the reason we want to paint the floor is to start putting the ballast in it and the water tanks. So that's why we're doing the roof first. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, almost there.
Mira,
Yeah.
you look like a Greek statue.
I feel like I'm painting or sculpting a Greek statue. What I'm missing is the little thumb hole in here.
And you should be naked.
I'm sure YouTube wouldn't allow that.
Are you?
Oh my god. Big. There.
Okay, finished?
Wait. Yes.
Finished? High five.
A lot of sanding and a lot of preparing has been done on all the walls, columns, the brassola, that lowest garapera part, and I'm up here because the compressor's busy compressing itself so we can start cleaning it all. But the next steps are to clean all the dust away, clean it with ethanol as good as we can, and we're already going to start applying our first layer of epoxy primer. So it's a white primer paint, which anything else can go on top, but it's an epoxy based paint. So we're going to make sure it's all nice and dry, clean, tape all the bits off that shouldn't be painted and should be varnished, and then we'll get cracking at that. we've got the Purple Heart as clean as possible, also the joints with the garapera, which is our goal, so we can paint it with a primary epoxy just like the other side. Now the plan is, well, we just have gone over it with the compressor. We're going to be slapping off all the remaining dust to then go over with a dust to you. To then go over it with ethanol, and then we can paint it nice and white. Now, of course, later we're going to go over all these bits which look a bit worse. But for now, it's just this, so we can put the windows in.
It does sadden me a bit to have to say bye to this purple wall. I think purple hardwood is so beautiful, but at the same time, painting the walls means we're giving such a step forward. So I'm really excited about having this whole house painted to finally start building furniture. Like, can you imagine that? Can you imagine the moment we are finally building the first piece of our furniture? I cannot imagine, but I cannot wait. I have to admit that I do feel that what I'm doing here is a crime, covering this beautiful purple hardwood in paint. But at the same time, this is the best I could give to the wood because paint is what protects the most. And also, even though the purple hardwood is so pretty, it can be a bit tiring if you have it all in your interior. Like, imagine living in a purple house. It's a bit too much. But I do feel guilty, so don't hate on me because of this.
On days that things don't go as expected, it's very easy to feel frustrated. Try to shake it off and look for the next task to tackle. Also, recharging our energies by watching the sunrise and playing with our dog really helps us to keep on dreaming this dream. That is only possible thanks to everyone who has joined our journey here on YouTube by watching, commenting and subscribing. And a big special thanks to everyone who's decided to support us. Thank you so much Miguel Angel for donating on PayPal, and also thank you Greg, Joseph, Duan and Ignacio for leaving your super thanks on our previous episode. We will be here next Sunday and hope you will join us again. Until then.